Okay, so here we're going to draw our moon phases. You already know that a new moon is going to be what? A new moon means that you can't see anything up in the sky, right? It does not mean that the moon is not lit, because we all know that the moon is always half lit. So the only difference is that the side of the moon that we see is not the side of the moon that is lit by the sun. So we are going to completely color this in so that it is not reflecting any of the light from the sun. All right, like this. So when we look in the sky, all right, forgive this isn't going to be the neatest job, and I don't want to take a long time. This is what we would see. We would just see kind of like a shadow of the moon, right? Because the back side of the moon is going to be lit by the sun. All right? So now what we need to know is that the lit side of the moon grows or waxes from the right side. This is where it's going to grow from. You're going to see a little sliver of light, and then more, and then more, and then more. And then after it waxes and grows, it's going to wane and it's going to go off to the left side. But it's important for you to know when you are labeling moon phases that the moon waxes or grows from the right side. All right, so a crescent, we know what shape a crescent is, right? We know it's either a C or a backward C. And how are we going to know which one is which? Well, this is a waxing crescent. If it's a waxing crescent, that means it is growing, right? It's not going away, it's just coming, it's growing. So a waxing crescent is going to be from this side right here. Oh wow, that's really kind of smudging there. Oh gee, my ink is... All right, let's pretend that's just all lit right there. Okay, so a waxing crescent means that the crescent is growing from this side. That means that this all is going to be dark, right? We only are going to see the side that's growing. And you are going to have to draw these, or at least label them, and draw some of them for your quiz and for your test. So this is a waxing crescent. We know the shape is a crescent, and we know that it's waxing because waxing means growing, and the moon grows from the right side. So this is growing, it's a waxing crescent. All right, so the first quarter then, we know that when we look up in the sky and we see a quarter moon, we're actually going to see half of it. It's growing from this side, so we started with nothing, then we have a crescent, and now for the first quarter moon, this is actually going to be what appears to be this, which would be half lit. Okay, so here we've got, again, excuse my coloring, I'm just trying to go fast here. Okay, so new moon is nothing. We have a waxing crescent, that means it's just coming, it's just growing. And then we've got the first quarter. And then we have a waxing gibbous. We know that a gibbous is when it is like 3/4 full, all but the crescent. So now it's still growing from this side, right? So we're going to grow from like a quarter to a half and to like 3/4. This is going to be, oh my, I'm just smudging this, aren't I? We are going to go to a waxing gibbous. That means it's a gibbous shape, and it's waxing, it's waxing from this side. It's waxing from the right, growing bigger. This is still left unlit. All right, new moon is nothing. a little bit. It's growing as a waxing crescent. First quarter, waxing gibbous, it's getting bigger until we get to a full moon, which is completely, we're seeing the full lit half of the moon. Is the entire moon lit right here? When you have a full moon, is the whole moon lit? The answer is no, because only half of the moon is lit at all times. We know that no matter what we see, half of the moon is always lit. Half of the moon is lit here, half of the moon is lit here. Here we're seeing the half that's lit, here we're seeing the half that's not. Okay, so we've gone from nothing to a waxing or a growing crescent, to a first quarter, to a waxing gibbous, to a full moon. Now we're not going to be waxing or growing anymore. Now we are going to be waning, which means that they're going to go off to the left side. So a waning gibbous, if this is a waxing gibbous where it's 3/4, then a waning gibbous is going to be when the other 3/4, the left 3/4, is lit. All right. There we go. My highlighter's really losing steam here, but you get the idea. That's a waning gibbous. It's 3/4, but it is scooching off to the left, which means it's going away because the moon grows from the right side. Okay, so if you looked into the sky and you saw waning gibbous, you would see the left side 3/4 lit. All right, we've got the last quarter, or you sometimes can call it the third quarter. Those are interchangeable. And now it's going off. Remember, it's waning. So the lit side would be over here. And this would be the shaded side of the moon. I really want to make this look nicer, but you don't need for this to be neat, but you get the idea. Okay, all right, so you see how it's going from full, it's kind of leaving, it's halfway leaving. Now we've got a waning crescent, which means it's getting smaller. And if it's getting smaller, that means it's going to be going off to this side because it leaves from the left side. All right, so we've got a crescent shape and it's waning. Waning is to the left, waxing is lit to the right, like this. Okay, like so. Okay, it's a good thing we're getting to the end because I think my markers have all but retired here. Okay, so there we've got the waning crescent. It's a crescent shape and it's waning because it is going away, it's moving to the left. All right, so let's go through. These are your 8 phases. This is what you need to be able to match these up. If I cut these labels from the pictures, you should be able to match them up. All right, so if I showed you this, you would say, okay, what is lit is a gibbous shape. Is it on the right or is it on the left? Because if it's on the right, that means it's growing. If it is on the left, that means it's going away. It's on the right, so it means it's growing. That means it's waxing, and it's a gibbous. All right, so if I pointed to this one, you would say, okay, it's a gibbous shape, but it's off to the left, so that means it's going away, which means it's shrinking. It's a waning gibbous. If I said, what is this? You'd say, well, it's a crescent shape and it's coming in from the right. That means it's growing or waxing. And if I showed you this one, you would say, okay, it's a crescent. That's the easy part. Is it waxing or waning? It's waning because it is leaving. It's going off to the left. New moon and full moon are typically the easy ones. You know what a full moon looks like. So the opposite is a new moon. First quarter, as long as you know that the moon grows from the right, you know that this would be first and this would be last or third. And then the crescents are easy to recognize the shapes, and the gibbuses are easy to know the shapes. So really what you're going to need to make sure that you know is that things wax from the right side and they wane to the left side. and pretty much you'll be able to know these 8 phases of the moon if you can remember all those vocab.